recommendation.
That was a
You're up, Commissioner.
All right, we're back in session and we're doing budgets.
Page 63.
63.
Okay?
Scott is with us with the event center. He had some last minute changes that we could not get into the court's recommendation. So we asked him to come this morning and review that with the board. And then we can take it under advisement and you can let us know how you would like to see it within the budget.
Okay. Scott?
Is that specifically related to the concert stuff? Or is that the backhoe and
All of it.
all of it? Okay. So we had, I'll start with the backhoe stuff, if that's okay. So we had asked for some money in the lease line to cover a new backhoe. Our backhoe was, I think, is a 1986. The transmission's out on it. Every day we're doing things to keep that thing alive, and we're simply just time away from a complete. I mean, I don't even know if we can get the parts to fix it. Last time they had to fix it, they had to tear the whole cab apart to try to get into the inside. So, so we had asked for some money, either in a lease or a one-time money to buy a new backhoe, and then we had talked about trying to replace some of the gators that we have. We have 3 gators. The gators are made by John Deere. One of the problems we run into is that John Deere equipment specifically requires a piece of equipment that Road and Bridge does not have. So anytime we have to get stuff fixed on those gators, it's quite a bit more expensive. They have been used, they have been abused, they are at the end of their life. Anyway, we've kind of band-aided them along. So we had requested to get a couple of replacement vehicles, side-by-sides that are economical on fuel and easy for us to get around the trails. In talking to Christy, she was able to identify a possibility for us to maybe purchase those things this year rather than to put them onto next year's budget to move forward.
So what we put within here is we removed the backhoe. We did put the gators in Pilt tentatively because Scott wasn't sure if he'd be able to get them this year. But we received more money than anticipated in Pilt monies for FY23. That's why it has a lid. We got $458,000 or $550,000. So what we were going to discuss with the board is opening the budget for Pilt monies so that Scott could purchase that this year, and instead of putting money towards a repair, we would just use that money and make the purchase.
And what was the total on Pilt?
Pilt was $584,697.
We got this year?
That we got this year. I budgeted $400, so we have $184,697 extra.
So
That would give the backhoe came in at
148. So it's 149, 148 something, and then the gators came in at 32 something. So and then that's for two 3-seat side by side.
do you want
Arctic cats.
the gator like that, or do you like those the truck bed golf carts?
So no, these ones need to be a little bit heavier duty because we tow with them.
Okay.
We tow the trailers, and so we went looking around. We went to a couple of dealers. We couldn't find anything less than $20,000+ per vehicle. Butters Tractor, who we have leased with, was able to run a deal with Arctic Cat, where they can get us a couple pieces of equipment for about 15 and a half, somewhere in that area.
So which ones are they? They're
the
Arctic Cat.
I wrote it down
they're the
on
Arctic
paper.
Cat Razor with the dump bed on the back.
Yes,
Yeah,
and it's a.
3-seater, 800cc.
I actually have it written.
Just like a Ranger.
It is just like a Ranger, but it's just the difference is Road and Bridge can
put a
work on
turbocharger on it.
it. There's a few things that we were looking for. We didn't want the high-end, high CC because we don't want it to be going super fast. We actually want to govern them, and so anyway, so they can get that stuff for us. We could take possession of the backhoe immediately, and then we could get the two before end of fiscal year.
And this is purchasing the backhoe, not leasing?
Purchasing the backhoe outright.
Yep.
Yeah.
Money.
They use it.
every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
That's-
and usage-wise, purchase versus lease
It's
was.
it's a much smarter way to
And-
go with the purchase than the lease. When we looked at the original lease, the problem is the hours. So
You
they
guys
run
are gonna use it
they
too
run the
much.
leases so that eventually you turn it back in and you can get some discount sales. We would just exceed that. The hours, it's just not feasible from an hour standpoint to lease it. The other thing is because we use it, we don't necessarily abuse it. We use it to lift a lot of horse manure. We use it to lift relatively light stuff but big loads. And so we don't put a ton of hurt on it. I mean, that's why we can continue to use a backhoe from 1988 or whatever it is that we're still using today. I think that the backhoe will be with us for a long time. Backhoes are currently on a 4-month wait list.
Yep.
But they actually have 2 in stock right now that we could grab. They're both the same. We could grab either one of them.
Caterpillar.
Mhm.
I mean, if you have one and if you're gonna blow up the hours and you know you're gonna blow up the hours, that's when you just know that the lease doesn't make sense. Especially so that's the whole thing is when you're looking at usage on equipment, that's what you're looking for is, are you even gonna come close on the hours? And if the answer is we're gonna blow it, then you don't do it. But if you're gonna not be using it as much, then you always want to lease it.
And it's right now it's such a weird thing when you're looking at the UTVs or the backhoes. It's just like, what can you get right
What's
now?
out there.
Like, I mean, we went and looked at a couple of UTVs, like the Polaris Rangers, and we prefer to have like the 540s because it's perfect for what we do. But nobody's carrying the 540s right now because they're a cheap vehicle. So you're buying the top of the line. And quite frankly, we just don't need top of the line. So, but we're lucky that we can get all this stuff before fiscal.
And so this is all off of this year's budget,
FY22, yeah.
out of pill.
Yes. So we removed those 2 items from the budget request for '23 in anticipation of this conversation. If you would like to, we can put it in next year's budget and then most likely use PILT dollars. So instead of opening the budget this year and spending it, we would just roll that money to next year and spend it.
If you can,
It would be,
The benefit I would see is quite frankly, we're just sitting on broken vehicles
right.
yeah.
right now.
So
Will you get rid
timing-wise,
of those
it
John
will-
Deeres then? Are
Availability.
you gonna trade
Yeah.
those off or?
I don't know. I'll try to trade them
See
off.
if you can trade them off.
I'll try
I'll
to. I
go
think
through
that we have a handful of things that we just need to get to auction. And honestly, I just want to start moving some stuff to auction.
Okay.
Right? We have a bunch. So
We don't need to collect.
no, we just need to get rid of some stuff
If you can trade them, get credit for them, great. If not, get them to
Yeah.
auction.
for sure.
Are there any of the 4-wheelers or anything like that you could use that were out at Weed and Mosquito? Because they had like some brand new ones that were sitting there.
I like 4-wheelers. I think they're pretty slick for getting around, but you just have to have the right people working your 4-wheelers because we can move fast to that complex, but it just isn't safe.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons we like golf carts that have a top end, and we like, these things that we can throw a governor on. 4-wheelers, we probably could throw a governor on them, but they tend to be a little bit more beefy. So we have a 4-wheeler. I'm not looking to get rid of it, but if I was going to pick up new equipment, it would make more sense to go with a side-by-side that we can use.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I like the idea, but I think we're very early in our talking to people, and I don't know what everybody's needs, so I'm not willing to make a decision right now, because I don't know what everybody else is asking for.
Is there something else in built?
Well, this afternoon, what we can do is we can do a quick skim through all of the departments. You can see basically requests, what we left in, what we took out, and then Monday next week.
Was this the PILT appropriation year? Was this the PILT appropriation? Because they appropriated, remember we flew out, everyone to DC, we didn't go, but they had the PILT appropriation because they appropriate PILT on a 2-year cycle.
Oh,
And I think they reappropriated it this year
and next year.
and next year. So what we got this year should be, you generally should be within 10% of whatever your first year is because it's based on a formula plus a little bit of growth into it.
And
So,
I never trust that, but.
well, but that's actually what the language of the law is that's written. So it's just something to understand that even though if you keep PILT budget at 400 for next year, just understand that we probably will have another, and that would be where you'd want to clean up some of these capital projects that way.
So this afternoon, when we run through all of the departments, we can also kind of mirror and look at the funding side. And then you can see where reserves are with PILT
Yeah.
and what we've got budgeted in PILT, that kind of stuff. So no commitment right now, but maybe next Monday.
I'd like a
we
review.
can start.
Are they holding on to that tractor for us? Are we kind of first in line, or is it just?
Well, so the tractors have been ordered and brought in for another governmental agency, but right now, there's enough time that they can get them in before their fiscal year kicks in so they can buy them. So they bought them for this other government agency, and they're just waiting. So we do have a clock, but I don't know, I can't tell you what that clock is. He just told me, here's how much it's gonna cost you. So I don't know if a week from now or 2 weeks from now, if that bumps us, because then they can't get them in the time
Well, if we have
for the other
time just to
government.
talk this afternoon,
Right.
at least it gives,
So,
How much
gives
time
me an
do we need to
understanding.
open the budget
We could do it
to do
Thursday.
that?
We have to do a public hearing. So we'd have to do a public notice, public hearing, and then hold the hearing to open the budget, and then
But
it's
we could-
approved. But if you are
If-
good with moving forward, then
I could just make the verbal
they could
commitment.
make the commitment, yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
didn't want to miss out if we decide to go
Yeah.
that way, so.
Yeah.
and I agree, but I just,
No, that's why we have.
Make sure there's not something else
Because
that's,
I could find other funds that we could potentially utilize if the opening budget process didn't work, or if we had the public hearing and people
Well-
were opposed to doing so. I've got another idea of where we could pay for it
the,
too.
the other thing too, and I don't know where we're at in this year so far, because I haven't seen what we spent, but if there's any
Next
funds
year.
that are left, that would be one of the things, anything we can pick up in this year's budget to alleviate capital projects for next year, just because it's gonna get,
Yeah. Yeah.
along that same line, it's about time to talk about spending limits.
yep. Time to
And-
put it into place,
Okay.
spending moratorium. So,
On the Rangers, would you be able to get those this year, or?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they could get me the 2 this
Okay.
year,
So
before September.
in the clerk's recommendation in PILT, this afternoon, when we look at that, we can take out,
well, we'll just,
assuming, once we get to the end, and you want to roll with making the purchase this year, then we could take the 25 out of PILT that I had budgeted for the Gators, that we weren't sure if we would get.
okay.
And that cost, like I said, is about 32 and a half for 2 of them this year.
You got really close to that limit.
I got $2,000. There was a stretch where I was about 500 over, to be honest with you. I'm like trying to figure out how to bring it back down, but anyway, it's pretty close.
Okay,
Okay.
so
And
that
then
was,
the backhoe and the gators, and then the other stuff is concert stuff.
okay. Do we want to talk personnel real quick before we do the concert?
Yeah. If we don't use names, we don't have to go into executive session, just talk positions.
Okay.
Well, I think some of that stuff is going to probably roll into our concert discussion.
I was going to say concert.
I just wanted to brief,
Do you
I
wanna
haven't talked to you about it,
do
but
you
it's
wanna
not about
start?
people, it's about positions.
Do you want to
But-
start the concert discussion?
Yeah, I think we'd have to be in a,
And then,
Executive session.
yes,
Oh,
executive
okay.
session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter into executive session under Idaho Code 74206 to discuss matters of personnel.